when you graduated school, right? High school, what or how much knowledge did you have on mental health? Because from my understanding, when I talked to my father and my elders, mental health was like taboo, right? We didn't talk about it, but I feel like my generation's a little bit different. Do you agree?
Well, I'll be 52 in about 2 weeks. So that puts me graduating class of around 1992. I did fail one year, so ended up being around 93. And what happened was I just about made it, but I started to get into my death metal band Windbreed at the time, and I just didn't care about school. So I didn't really graduate, but I did get my GED. So it would have been around 92 that I would have graduated. So, like, essentially. So I remember there being a couple of kids in school that committed suicide. That was horrible. That it was like the bomb going off. In the whole no one knew like what. Oh my
Like
god.
you as a senior, are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, like me as a senior, or maybe even a junior. I remember, like, yeah, there was a kid that was like he actually liked metal. He was kind of like a short little dude, didn't have that many friends, and then all of a sudden one day there was like he just like didn't come to school one day, and everyone was like, and all of a sudden, yeah. So there was really no such thing as mental health talking about any of that stuff in my generation of back in the early 90s. No one talked about stuff like that at all. So
Unless something
unless something really bad happened, yeah.
yes, unless somebody committed, you
Yep,
know,
yep,
such a thing.
yep.
Yep.
And
That's usually how
people
it goes.
and then people would be like, if someone was like, this was a time where they hadn't really started prescribing antidepressants to people. That was sort of taboo, or like if you did, no one knew about it. And then I remember then you would hear things like, oh, the high school jock of the whole football team like was crying last time after the football game, and he got drunk and he got a DWI, and now he's like, I don't know, like, so there'd be little outliers of people that you think had it perfect that didn't. So
Right. Exactly.
yep,
Right. Like people you think that you would never think.
yep, mm-hmm.
Um so yeah, I mean I guess my segue to that is so you said that was around your senior year. I to be honest with you, I had a very similar thing happen to me. I had 3 people and friends that did that my senior year, and,
Oh wow,
I think I remember talking to you about this,
yep,
but, like, that was my first interaction with even the topic of suicide was literally a principal walking on a school bus and basically announcing that my friend shot
really?
himself in the head.
Are
Yeah.
you
No.
serious?
Yep, and there was no so, like, just imagine, like, there's no, like, therapist ready or, like, no, like they just, like, dropped the bomb on us that my this kid, like, shot himself, and then, like,
Oh my god.
there was no therapist or nothing, you know what I mean? And it was like, "What the fuck,
So
dude?" Like,
what year was this?
"Oh, dude, this was years ago, man." This was,
So
like,
it would have been
fuck, like, almost 10
2018.
yeah, a long time ago.
Okay.
Um But yeah, dude, I guess my thing is, like, it's very interesting that, like, senior year for you was your first interaction with it, right?
I think it was around senior, yeah, maybe junior. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember the first person that I knew died was my grandpa, and I was like, I remember I was 18.
Okay.
I think I was like a junior or something like that. And I remember it was like really weird. Like it was just like I didn't know how to feel. I was like,
Like, weird in the sense that you didn't even know how to talk to people about it? Like,
Um, yeah, like I didn't know. Yeah, it was the first person that I knew died, and I wasn't very close to him, but it still felt really weird. Like, what? And then I remember I was freaked out about death. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna die some.
"Oh,
And
okay."
then I think that definitely happened. I was like, I'm gonna die someday too. And I remember being at the grave, like he was buried. I remember just like, I don't know, it was like a very. And then I don't know. I remember just going like, man, I got it pretty good, like I should be more
Yeah.
appreciative of everything. I think that's something that always happens when someone dies,
Yes.
or someone dies tragically, like something like in a suicide. So, yeah,
Right. Right. Yeah, it's like yeah, I feel like those deep introspections don't happen until yeah, shit hits the fan, you
it's
know.
true. No, yeah, they definitely don't. I would say, it's. I think also too, um, there was a lot of kids. Like, obviously this is like in the 90s, so it was like the grunge era, and it was like the recreation of the summer of love. So the early 90s was grunge music. Everyone's like kind of hippies now. It's all back in style, and I went from being like a total death metal dude with a leather jacket and like a that porno mustache and frizzy hair. Like, I looked hilarious, and and then it was like, next thing you know, you're dressing kind of like Kurt Cobainish, Eddie Vedder's, with like the, everyone's, I slicked my hair back, I grew it really long, I looked totally different, all of a sudden, all these girls liked me, and I was like, what's going on? Like, last year you thought I was ridiculous, so it was kind of weird. Like, a lot of things changed, like in the early 90s, in that day, and people were started to act out more, like like there was a kid, I forgot, that he was playing with a gun with his friends and shot himself and killed himself.
What?
Forgot. Yeah, that happened when I was in 10th grade. I forgot about that. Yeah, I didn't really know him, but I knew the
Holy
people.
fuck.
I was friends with people that were friends with him. It
That's
really. Yeah,
crazy,
he was
dude.
like 15. It was our guitar.
What?
Yeah, it was
So
our. Yeah.
so you wanna hear something fucked up, dude? So I just I had a conversation like 4 months ago because I was I got really curious about the death of this one kid that I found out about like in high school. Um it was the same scenario where like this kid like shot himself when he was like 15, right?
Accidentally.
No.
Oh,
No,
yeah, on purpose.
on purpose. So,
Okay.
but like for years like I never really knew why. And like couple months ago, I reached out to like a ex friend, and I was like, I want to have a conversation with you because I just couldn't fit. I couldn't fathom. I couldn't like put a grip on like a 15-year-old having the ability to kill themselves. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that just sounds like it.
You mean like the balls to kill themselves?
No, no, the
Oh,
execution of it, like the following through and being able to like do it.
that's what I'm saying. Like, the balls to do it. Like, I think to commit suicide, I think it takes a lot of courage. In one sense, it takes a lot of to me, it takes a lot of courage, but also it takes a lot of someone, obviously, who feels like there's no other way. They like the pain, like just the thought of continuing is like way too, like, it's weird. Like I remember, even the worst times of my life, no matter what. I remember when I had a drug addiction to painkillers, and I remember even at the worst time of my life thinking, like, man, if I think of life as like going to Darien Lake. Like, you're gonna be there for the full day anyways. Why leave early? Like, ride all the rides at least. You can at least do that. Like, for me, it's like, the thought of suicide never entered my mind. Now, it doesn't mean like I haven't felt like, oh my god, this is so painful. I just want it to end. I just want to die. Like, like, sort of, you're not like serious, but you sort of like, in sort of a way, like, you sort of feel like for a split second you kind of wouldn't care because you're just so fed up with everything, and you feel like there's no hope. I've been there before, you know what I mean. But I never have ever looked at life as meaningless, no matter how bad it got. So,
Right, right, and that's good.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
really good. Like, so let's talk about the painkiller stuff. So you mentioned that briefly.
yep,
If you want to
yeah.
go into that, go ahead.
So I grew up pretty crazy. I was drinking and driving by age 13. I drank a lot of alcohol, a little bit of marijuana, a little hash, but I never did any other drugs besides that. So by the time I hit 19, I was I had done I was gone through my crazy drinking phase, You know, I never got in any trouble or nothing, which is good. And then it kind of made me sick, like alcohol. So then I just stopped drinking. You know, that doesn't mean once in a while to have a beer, but I would usually regret it. And then when I was like my early 30s, I was living in Cincinnati. I went to this crappy dentist who would fuck my teeth up and drill the wrong tooth. And then every week he would just give me these painkillers. In the first few months, I just took it as prescribed, and my teeth were still hurting and this and that. And so, that was that. And then all of a sudden, like after the third month, I remember getting high, feeling like euphoric, and I was like, whoa, because it used to just make me tired. And I'm someone who has always suffered with depression. I was diagnosed when I was like in my early 20s as dysthymic disorder, which is low level chronic. I don't know if it's that anymore. It's very strange. Like I don't feel like I've always felt like I'm very fortunate. I feel very lucky. Um, I know I have a lot of friends. I know I feel like I'm a good person. I know people like me. It's not an egotistical thing. I know I'm a generally well liked person, and I like most people, so I'm pretty easygoing, funny, But I've always had this very, very like dark storm underneath, always deep inside, always just like raging, And I talked about it with a friend the other day. I was like, and she goes, that's why you play music, and it's like it's exactly why I play music, because when that storm gets too strong, I have to let it out, like play music and write about the dark feelings that I have. And and I'm usually like, it's hilarious. Like some of the most depressing music that I can write or do, I feel so happy and euphoric, like when I've completed it or when it's done, because it's an exorcism of all those things, and they don't really haunt me, or they don't really stay in the soul, the belly of my soul, and make me go into like some kind of like emotional rot. So it's kind of like an exorcism that comes out, just like kind of like a cleansing that happens, sort of, in a way. But I also know that I've been someone who, because of the drug addiction, it lasted about 3 years. It was sort of on and off. The last year it was really bad. I got up to taking like 60 pills a day for like the last,
Holy fuck.
yeah, like the last 2 weeks I was using. My dealer would be like, look at this dude. I've never seen anyone eat as many pills as this guy and not die, And I'd be like, I can handle it. I mean, I would like, like
Break
generally,
records.
generally speaking, I could like easily eat 30 pills in a day, just every few hours, take two, take two, take two. And then you get to the point at the end where you're like, where you're like crushing it up and you're snorting it because it's faster. And then, it's like you get to the point where, like, next thing you know, you're like, I'm a drug addict. And you're like, I hate drugs. How did this happen? And then it just happens, And then I came back to Rochester, where I'm from, in 2007, and been sober ever since, and got on medications that helped deal with withdrawal. And I was in outpatient rehab for about a year and a half, and rebuilt my life and got a business and continued with music, because I stopped playing music for a while, sold all my stuff because of drugs. And I was in a really bad, dark place. And I remember thinking, I'm never getting out of this, because the painkillers made you feel so euphoric. It was like being kissed by God. I never felt anything so good in my life that was kind of like artificial. But I mean, and it's weird because some people say like they could never get as high as they did the first time. It was never as good. That's not that wasn't my experience at all. For the most part, I could always get that high again. I just had to take more, and that was what's dangerous, because it can kill you, obviously. I did have 2 times I came close to an overdose. I took too many. One time I would plan it. When you're a drug addict, you sort of become like a professional drug addict, where you can take things in a way. You don't eat to get higher. You take a certain amount and you time how much you take when you take it. Then you add food to make sure that you don't overdose. So you take an X amount of pills by 8, by
Holy
9:30,
fuck.
by
It's like you
9:30.
become a
Become a
mathematician.
mathematician. And so one day, because when I was high, I would just blab all the time, and be like, I would blab to the florist that I lived underneath, And then I was feeling like very lightheaded and realized I hadn't gone up and eaten any food after I took like, I don't know, 6 pills, which I did like a half hour ago. Usually I take the pills and then by the time I get home I can eat and then I'm good. I'm not gonna like overdose, or it's not too much, you know. It's hitting maximum, but see, you're sort of always trying to calculate. The dangerous thing about drugs is you're sort of always trying to calculate the maximum high with the least amount of risk. But it's an oxymoron because the more you do, the more risky it is. You know what I mean? But you never know what you're, you know. But at least by 20 years ago, no one was really making counterfeit pills. So at least I knew what I was getting. And at the time, most of the time, I was getting it from the pharmacy or doctor shopping. But the last year I bought it from someone. So for the most part, I think the pills were fine. You know, I never was got fentanyl. But I remember a few times where it was like, yeah, the menus Percocet, the menu usually Percocet, Vicodin, but now the menus today is either methadone or there was some other one,
Methadone.
morphine. I was like,
Oh, morphine. No shit.
I guess I'll try morphine, like because I don't want to be sick. You don't want to be sick, and then so you live that life of that every day. You got to get drugs so you're not sick. It was a horrible rat race, and I'm so glad it's in my past. And then so I came home, went to rehab, and really never looked back. I've had a couple times where I sort of maybe felt like I came close, but not really. Doctors would still give me painkillers even after I tell them no. Two
That's
times
crazy.
I remember getting the prescription and I'm not taking it, just sat in my bathroom for like a month. I'd wake up at 2 in the morning and think about like doing a line or taking it. But then I'm like, no, because I can't lie to people. If I lose my sobriety, I got to tell my therapist. I got to tell my fam. Like, I'm not going to go through that because I'm not a liar. So I just dumped it down the toilet. Fuck it, whatever. So then been sober for almost 20 years now, and it's the best thing that I ever did. I never thought I would really get out of it because you just don't. At the time, I just didn't know there was a medication that could help you deal with the withdrawal. It was so bad. Opiate withdrawal is like dying. It's the worst. It's like having the flu and a severe panic attack at the same time as you're having diarrhea. It's the worst feeling in the world.
Huh.
You understand how people do sexual stuff for drugs because you're so sick. Luckily, I never did anything like that. I never got that bad, but like it's then you can realize. So then I understood like my whole life. I remember I had dated addicts previously, and I never understood why couldn't they just quit? It's so bad for you. What's wrong? Like so stupid. All of a sudden, I became exactly what I never understood. Now I'm an addict, and I was like, holy shit, how did this happen? Like, and then I just realized that it was very common. The opiate addiction was so much more common than I thought. So yeah, so that's
What do you think is like the I don't know. I like this I like to live under the assumption that everything happens for a reason. Do you feel like that, you got to that point because of a certain reason or,
I got to the point of doing or getting out.
no, just in general, like do you feel like that whole experience there was a reason behind it?
Oh, I think for one thing, it made me because I really held on to a lot of anger and like from a previous relationship with someone who was had a lot of addiction problems, and I took her not being able to stop the addiction personal. Like she didn't love me enough to stop. And then all of a sudden I understood it had nothing to do with me at all. And so all the people that I took offense, like I felt like they chose drugs over me. Like whether it was, bandmates or relationships or just friends, I understood why they did it. It was like it was completely it was out of their control to an extent, and it's so hard to get out of. I still have friends that are really bad into it, and I can only deal with them in small amounts.
Right.
But
Right, you gotta
I
have
used to
like
be
a
very
healthy.
judgmental. That's probably the most thing. I used to be so judgmental about drug addicts. Oh, I was the worst. I was the worst. Still, probably put me in my place. Now here I am. Now I'm a hypocrite because now I'm a drug addict. And it's like what? And it's funny because I remember very early on, it took about a while for me to admit I am a drug addict. I am an addict. And it was really weird to say that. It was very freeing at the point, but I hadn't gone to any meetings when I was in Ohio or anything like that. I did try to stop, but it would just the sickness was just too much. You know, you're doing, generally before the 60 at the tail end, I was doing maybe like an average of like 20 pills a day, 25, 10 milligrams. So
Jesus.
like
What
200,
what what
two
pill are
hundred
you
fifty.
talking about?
Well,
Which one
either
are you referring?
Vicodin or Percocets. So you're talking, I mean, I would just do whatever I could, but
Is
like,
that a benzo? What is that?
no, it's an opiate, it's a painkiller. So there's
Okay.
there's Vicodin, which is hydrocodone, and then there's oxycodone, which is Vicodin, and then there's oxycontin, which is just it's just the oxycodone itself. The other ones are a mixture of Advil or Tylenol. So I'm actually learned to be somewhat of a pharmacist when I became a drug addict.
Yeah, you got the full fucking
I
you got the
remember every time I would score drugs, I would cell phones didn't have like real and they didn't really have internet on that yet, so I would call this number, what's my pill, and I would pretend, oh, what is 42S9 yellow.
Oh
They're
my
like,
god, I forgot that you'd have to do that.
that's what you would do back in the day, and then they'd be like, "Oh, that's Vicodin," and I'd just hang up, and be like, "Yeehaw!" I remember one time someone sold me like, I don't know, vitamin C. I was like, "Fuck," TSW9 is fucking vitamin C. Don't forget that, like it was
Holy
just so.
fuck,
And then
dude.
it was funny when I came back to Rochester. No one could believe that I was a drug addict. They're like, "You?" There was used to be a thing called uh it was called DACA. It was called something against chemical abuse. I can't remember the name of what the D was, but they would call me Dalcin against chemical abuse. They're like DACA, because I was very anti-drugs by the time I was like 19. Even marijuana I thought was like heroin. You know what I mean? No. So when I
Yeah.
came back and I'm like, yeah, I got it. They're like, you don't even smoke cigarettes or drink. I'm like, I know. I don't know what to say, but it happened. So it was a very important experience, a very learning experience. And I'm not even gonna
Fuck.
lie, I had a lot of fun. Like there was a lot of fun, there was a lot of good times, and there was a lot of shitty times, and there was a consequence when you burn the candle at both ends. So I could have risked my life. You know what I mean? All kinds of shit. You know what I mean? So I definitely do not recommend it. I definitely recommend to never try opiates anyone, like unless you have to. It's that addicting. It feels that good that you feel like you don't ever want to not feel that way because it feels
Do
so
you think
incredible.
do you think that opiates are more dangerous than drinking and smoking? Like
Oh,
what
absolutely. To me, they are. Yeah, because an
okay.
opiate is heroin. Really, it's just legal heroin is like painkillers. It's just a weaker version of an opiate mixed with an acetaminophen or ibuprofen, and then the raw is just the actual opioid. It binds to your receptors and blah blah blah. It can do long term damage and stuff like that too. I think the only kind of damage I have, and maybe it's not even, I don't know if even it's from drug use, because it wasn't real. It was maybe like 3 years of drug use, but it was really only like less than a year of like every day. Originally the first 2 years was like, I'd take a bottle of pills every twice every month. I'd go to the dentist. He'd give me 16 very low like 5 milligrams, and every 2 hours I'd take two. The whole day I'd be high. My day off, I'd just be laughing on the internet. And then 2 weeks later, I was totally controlled for like 2 years. It was very weird. It was a very strange
Like
addiction.
you were like a operating drug addict.
Yes, but I was very strict about, like, it would just every 2 weeks I would have the dentist appointment. He'd fix my tooth sort of, and there'd still be problems. And then yeah, it was weird. It was like, but I didn't even ask for the pills. He just give them to me. So I'm just thinking I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm just taking a little bit more. And oh yeah, I feel really happy and high. But this is easy. It's these little pills from the doctor, the dentist. It's from Walgreens. It can't be that bad. You know what I mean? So
So here's a question for you.
yeah.
So alls I could say, is I've gotten very self-aware about medication and the consequences of not reading the label.
Hmm.
And all I can say to you is through, yes, trusting your doctors and stuff like that, um, and it leading you down to that path, are you a little bit more hesitant to just like agree? Like say yes, 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 sir, yes,
To be
sir.
honest with you, I'm very much against most Western medicine.
Yep.
Most people who are uneducated would call me anti-vax, which I don't really think is the correct term. I believe the system is very corrupt. I believe there's good people with good intentions, but if you're going to get paid $2,500 per patient for giving someone a COVID vaccine that has no recourse if you get hurt, what does that tell you? You know what I mean? They took
Right.
in 1986 they took off all the liabilities for vaccine injuries. So that would be like if they took all the liabilities off cars. Why would they make seatbelts? So it's like they're going to make the most profit without worrying about the liability because they don't have a liability. That's crazy to me. We're Us in New Zealand are the only countries that have medicines advertised on TV. We're the only two countries in the world. So not just vaccines, but just medicines in general. Like my doctor doesn't go, okay, well, what's your diet? How much do you exercise? It's always like, well, what's the symptom? How do we mitigate the symptom? Instead of like, well, what's the cure? What's causing it?
Yep, you just said something real
So
good,
I
buddy.
don't I don't really trust doctors, to be honest with you. I'm very skeptical because they've been, in my mind, brainwashed to a certain extent just by corporate, and look at the Sackler family has been the most sued family of pharmaceuticals and opiates in the world. There's tons of medications that have killed people that have, it's like, yeah, it's fucking dangerous. You know what I mean? The fact that there's no liability on vaccines is crazy. Expect a vaccine that was Operation Warp Speed that was made in less than 9 months. You kidding me? Or whatever, how long it was, less than a year that it was. You're gonna tell me we know all the side effects? No. So, and then from obviously from like the dentist who kept giving me the pills, he should have been. I remember he was kind of like he could see I was addicted, and he started to kind of like realize what he had done. But he still kind
Right.
of, but he kind of started to give me a hard time a little bit. But then he kept giving in, and even when I moved back to Rochester, I made him send me like one more prescription, and he was like, "This is the last time I can do it." And it's like, dude, you shouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, I hate to say it, but he created the addict. It's my responsibility at the end of the day. But had I not met him, that would have never happened. Never.
Right.
It was definitely malpractice. Honestly, it really was because I would have never even, I've never even, I would never have done it. So yeah,
Yeah, it's just one of them things where it's just like, uh, there was a point when I was being given, the fuck was it called? Um, fuck. It starts with a V. Hold up.
Vicodin. That's not Vicodin.
Nope. Hold up. Sorry. Uh, Ativan.
Yep. So that's just anti-anxiety. I've taken that before for if I had to go in for like an MRI or
Yeah.
other procedure. Yep, that's
Yeah.
stuff.
So,
That's good stuff. Yep.
yeah, I would say that Ativan is very, that's the one medication that between Ativan and, um,
Xanax.
no, 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 no. When I got my wisdom teeth taken out,
Oh,
what the fuck is it called?
it's
What do they
usually
give you?
it's usually Vicodin or Percocet,
Yeah. Well,
or they give you Tylenol 4, which is like Tylenol codeine.
yeah. Well, all I could say is that both of those medications were fucking, yeah, it was like one of those things where I was like, oh, that felt good, man.
Yeah.
But I was cognizant of telling the doctor, like, I do not want to go on this. Do not give it to me anymore.
Oh, really? That's good. You had the foresight because originally it just made me tired. Most people it has a different effect. By the time I got started to feel the high from the drug, opiate, It would give me tremendous energy. I fucking do laundry for like 2 years in my house. I'd clean everything, I'd be up all night, and then you wouldn't eat that much. I was down to like 180, you know what I mean? Like I was like 40 pounds below weight by the time I came home, like I looked terrible, so
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely all I could say is that fucking Ativan shit is fucking dangerous, and if anybody fucking wants to take that shit, don't.
Can you pause it for 10 seconds? Or
Yeah.
just hold on one
Yeah.
second.
One second. Pause. Alright.
Okay.
But yeah, Ativan is not it's not oh god. It's like what you said about kissing God,
Yeah.
that was the medicine
Yep.
that made me feel it, and I was like, "Put this away." Like,
As
do
far as
not
away as you can from me.
yes. Yes. Mhm.
It can be very it's a very slippery slope,
It is a
It's
fucking slippery slope, dude, and, like, you know, a lot of people, like you said, dude, can't can't control themselves, you know what I mean? They can't, they just listen to what the fucking doctor gives them, and then they say, "Alright, it ain't working, give me something stronger." You know what I mean? And then
That's what I would do. He would give me 5 milligrams, and then there was something called ES, extra strength 7.5. It's so weird how you become sort of like a pharmacist in a way. Like you could name all. We used to. My one dealer lived right in northern Kentucky, and we used to like fantasize about these painkillers called school buses. They were these big orange
You
things.
say school buses.
We called them. They were called school bus on the street. It was hilarious, and we used to fantasize. One day we're gonna get school buses, dude. Yeah, can you find school buses? And it's like, oh, I seen one like a year ago, and it was just so fucking funny. It's weird, like this things that you come up with, but
Yeah, like, thinking back, like
yeah, thinking back on the dumb shit that I remember, there was this other older woman dealer that I had too. It was like I had like two main, and it was their lifestyle was really bad, really sad, and it's just like you keep thinking to yourself like, I'm hanging out with these people. What does that say about me? And I remember
right.
going, oh man, this is horrible, but like you just feel so good. But then the next day you're like, oh, I'm ruining my life. Okay, give me some more painkillers so I can forget about how much I'm ruining my life. Oh my god, this is amazing. Why do I should never stop taking pain? No, you're on the painkillers. So you're living a double life. You're living a double
Now
life. And
now
then
hold up,
yeah.
dude. So, like, you did you own your own business at this time?
No, I was just a pizza delivery guy.
Okay, because I was like, how the fuck did he manage
No.
to, like
Nope.
okay, so you kinda turned your life around
When I
uh,
came back, yeah.
when so what did you end up doing? Did you end up, getting outpatient for a while and then you're like
Oh, I just did outpatient for like a year and a half. I did like an extra credit course too, and yeah, I did it for about a year and a half. It was cool. I hated waking up early though. You had to be there. I don't know. I can't remember. It was pretty early though for a good hour and a half of the session. Then you go home. You have it anywhere from 5 times a week to 3 days to 2 days to one day. Yeah, and then I never did much meetings. I did some, but I didn't really need them, to be honest with you. Once I got on the medication, Suboxone, that helps you with the withdrawals, I was done. I was like, oh, thank God. I didn't really think about it that much afterwards, to be honest with you. I was like, that's amazing. So I've been sober ever since, almost 20 years. So
so
you know,
basically you you got put on, like, a medication to help you.
yeah, to kill the withdrawals and then slowly tapered off that. Yeah.
Wow. So it's kinda like a little bit it was a mixture of willpower, I would assume.
I mean, it didn't really feel like much. I mean, it definitely it's a willpower to stay sober, but I also realized that my drug of choice is opiate. The medication that I had been taking for so long, you cannot take an opiate. You have to wait because it has a blocker in it. you got to wait like a few days before you take a painkiller to get high because the opiate that you're on has a blocker, and you can go into really bad, like really bad, horrible reverse withdrawal symptoms. So that whole thing just sounded like a nightmare to me. I was like, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna stay sober. Forget it. It's not worth
Right.
it. Yeah,
Right. That's crazy, dude.
yeah. So all in all, drugs are bad. I went,
How long were you addict then?
I'd say for 3 years, but it wasn't. I was a very mild. I don't even know if you want to call it an addict. For the first 2 years. I would just take it when I could get it, maybe once or twice a month. I would. That's it. I didn't even think about it on the days that I didn't have it. It was weird. It was very controlled. Then it slowly started becoming more. And then you doctor shop. You go to the hospital. Well, I did have a lot of teeth pain back then. So then, it's like it just slowly. And then next thing you know, as soon as I found someone that sold it, no longer going to a pharmacy, that was the end for me because then I had access. First week I spent $500. And then every week,
Holy fuck.
yeah, every week I would just go. And then I just became in debt, sold most of my musical stuff, CDs even for like $1. It just it didn't get that bad, but I was only like I would say I was like a bad daily addict for less than a year. It was maybe like 9, 8. It was like 9, 8, 9 months. Well, I'd say like 9 months. It was about 9 months that I was really bad. So
Right. Fuck.
yeah, so I'm glad it's behind me, and I'm glad I learned a lot from it, and I'm glad it's been so long. You know what I mean? It feels weird that it's been almost 20 years. 2000 September 11th, 2007 is my sober date. So
So I want to talk to you about your mother. I remember
yep.
this was a topic that like we meant to touch upon
Hmm.
last time and then like it just didn't happen.
Yep. Yeah. So my mother committed suicide. It'll be 10 years ago this um, this May 1st. Well, it's like April 30th or May 1st. It's weird because there's two different days. Like the day they found her was like the third. Is there an April 31st or no? I
I'm
don't
not
know. Is
sure.
there? I think there's in the month of April. Let me look real quick. I think March, April. Yeah, there's only so she passed away on the 30th, but they didn't find her till the next day on the first. So so they on her grave, it's like the first, May 1st. So, anyways, my mother suffered from mental illness her whole life, and that's what contributed to my very unstable childhood. At the age of 13, my parents got divorced. I started to drink. Really didn't do much else. Maybe some marijuana, but that was really it. So between the age of 13 and 19, I drank a lot. You know, I was pretty much unsupervised. My mom would let me do anything. She would buy us beer. She had parties all the time. It was like crazy town. We could just do whatever we wanted to. So she suffered from depression her whole life. She, was, I remember being very young, and she was like, she wanted me to stay home with her when I was in like first grade because she was scared, and she was seeing the angels all around her, and she was afraid that something bad would happen if I left. So I remember staying home with my mom because she was like, and I didn't understand what was going on, but I knew my mom was sick. So I was definitely a mama's boy. I was very close to her. She was very close to me. So over the years, her mental illness just got worse. After the divorce, she hung around teenagers. She dated young people. She never really got into drugs. Maybe just, well, sorry, that's not true. She did get into Xanax and maybe some other antidepressants, I think, but she did get hooked on Xanax, and then that became her downfall. So basically, she got hooked on Xanax, and to the point, for whatever reason, she started to quadruple her dose, and then she ran out, and then she would started calling the hospital. Or sorry, she started calling 911 to come pick her up because she didn't feel right, whatever that meant. So a lot of mental health like pickups.
So did she go to hospitals? Did she
Yeah, she
go?
she would go to hospitals, and they. wouldn't really do much, they'd
I
just be
would assume
like,
that it would make it worse. That's just my opinion.
yeah, like, so, like, I don't know, maybe they would give her a Xanax to calm her down, and then, like, I don't know, like, they wouldn't really do much, so we thought a lot of this is just attention, this is just attention. This is what she does. She chose to have a very unhealthy relationship with someone who's incarcerated. So that really was hard for the family to accept. So there were times where we had to, people disowned her, they didn't talk to her. So it was very, very, it was very difficult. You sort of in a way had to love her at arm's length, but she was someone that was very, very lost, and her life was very sad for most of it. And it sucks because when you're younger, it's like your protector is supposed to be your parents. Well, my father was gone, like, he was around on the weekends, but it's not the same, like, so my mother is supposed to be my protector. She's not my protector.
Right.
She has abusive boyfriends that hurt us, and it's, you grow up in fear, and then she just never got out of dating these horrible guys. It was horrible, and she got horrible anxiety and panic attacks. She couldn't work. She finally got disability. And then after calling 911 100 times, they finally put her in Rochester Psychiatric Center for about, I don't know, 6, 7 months.
Oh God.
Yeah, she was in there, and it was,
Oh my God.
and she would sort of like, we thought she would act like more sick than she was sometimes, like she would like pretend to the lady that she couldn't walk. She didn't want to do any chores today. Just bring me my food. I just want to lay in bed. And then they'd be like, no, you can come down. And she was very, very lazy. The most laziest person I've ever met in my life, so bad. It was so annoying, to be honest with you. And then, it was hard to see her. And then we were like, what the? So I think there was like, I think she would sort of talk like, I feel like killing myself. And she'd call us. And then we're like, oh my God, just don't talk. Like it was like annoying after a while because she would just like go in circles and then she just wanted attention. And it was,
Right.
what sucked was we should have just gave her some more attention. Some people in her life should have not just cut her out of her life because she was with someone we didn't approve of, because we should have just everyone should have just accepted her for who she was instead of trying to fix her. That's the
Right.
biggest regret, and I know everyone has that regret. you know
Yeah.
um I don't as much because I was the one, not, I hate to say it this way, but I was the one who was least judgmental. I was the one that was like, that is that's who she is. What are you going to do?
Right.
That's who she is. There's nothing you can do about who she is. That's who she is, and you have to accept it. And it was hard for me. It was hard for everyone else. But in the end, um, she got out. She we found a really nice apartment in Albion ish Medina. Sorry, it's in Medina. And we found her an apartment. She lost her car, and it seemed like a really good place for her. She had a dog. Then also she started getting more cats. That was crazy. She didn't need like 5, 6 cats. It was ridiculous. So then, um, and then she just, then she started, calling the hospital to come pick her up. I don't feel right. And then she started asking people for Xanax.
Oh
So
God.
1 week before she passed away, she called. I just feel like I want to kill myself and I can't take it anymore. They come pick her up. They take her to Warsaw Hospital. I don't know if it's a psychiatric hospital and a hospital, but it was a really shitty place. Apparently, she tried to do some sharp. There was like some line on her neck where she tried to like hurt herself, but like, so we're thinking like it's a cry for help. We told them, do not let her go. She's not stable. What do? They let her go. We're like, if you do, at least fucking tell us, call us. A
Right.
week later, same thing happens again. We say, she's there. I don't think anyone went and visited her because that's what we were worried about. She's just doing this for attention. And then they gave her something called Toradol, which apparently is something they gave Michael Jackson before he died. I guess it's like it can have a suicidal effect.
Huh.
So 2016, April 30th, 2016, she gets dropped off by the cab, the Medicab, and we had taken her dog away. and maybe one of the cats or something, because no one's there to feed our animals, right? So then the next day, May 1st, I'm going to my massage. I get a call from my sister. She goes, "Mom's gone," and I'm like, "Gone where?" Like it didn't even hit me. And then she told me that she had hung herself,
Oh
and
wow.
I remember my my whole body went cold. And I remember always as a little boy, like thinking, like, no matter how bad life gets, I always got my mom. I could always go back. My mom would give me a hug or something. My mom would always be there. She's my safe space.
Right.
And I remember that's gone, forever gone. And then it was like my whole body went numb and everything. And I went to the appointment still for the massage. I didn't know what to do. I told my massage therapist, who was a male massage therapist, he's awesome. What had happened. He gave me a hug. I was crying. And then I finished my massage. And then I don't know if I went home that day. I can't remember. Or if later on that day we went to my aunt's house where we all met and everyone was just kind of upset and crying. So it was a huge shock because my mom was like, she was someone who would always be afraid that she was going to like choke on a potato chip or something ridiculous. Like, I never thought she would have the guts to do something like that.
Right.
It sounds weird and horrible to say, but I just never, she was like scared of she was scared of falling. She was scared of this. She was scared of that. I just never thought that would ever happen. And you also think like that would never happen to me,
Right.
someone in my family. So it was devastating. And it was one of the most, it was like probably the worst, obviously the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And she was only like 62, I think, at the time. She wasn't that old. And yeah, so that was probably one of two of the worst things that ever happened to me in my life. And I remember thinking, like, this is so bad, I want to use, like, I sort of felt like maybe, maybe I have an excuse to do drugs now because my mom just, killed herself, like,
Right.
do I have a good excuse? And of course I did. I had like a reasonable, like, yeah, you could, people would probably understand. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. I almost felt like I had a right to overdose, to do that, but I
Right.
didn't because I was like, I didn't want to go down a bad path, and I had made, at that time I was like 9 years sober, so I was like, I don't want to throw it all away because my mom chose to throw it all away.
Right.
And then I started seeing a therapist, which I've been in therapy on and off for like 26 years because of depression and stuff and anxiety, mainly depression. And then I remember what was really surprising is in therapy, there was a guilty feeling of relief um,
Huh.
because my mother had always been a very big source of stress. Like, she'd always be asking people for money. She was, saying she's going to kill her. I mean, just like, you just
Crazy.
can't. Yeah, it's just nonstop. Like, my whole life, sort of in a way, felt like my mom was always hurting me inadvertently. And then, like, committing suicide was like the ultimate hurt I'm going to leave you with. I was very mad for a while too. I was like,
Right.
why would you fucking do this to me? Like, are you fucking serious? After all this shit you put me and my sister through and my whole family, and now you're gonna leave me with this, like, this mess I gotta endure. It was very confusing. I was angry. I felt, like I said, I felt relieved because it was finally over. And it's a horrible feeling to feel that. Very confusing. But my therapist, who's awesome, she's like, that's very normal, and it's okay to feel that way because it was extremely draining and stressful, and now there's no more of that. And that's hard to say that when it's your mother. Um, but I had to realize that it's very, sometimes the diagnosis, and my therapist said, sometimes, why do we look at mental health different than any other physical disease? Like, when someone dies from cancer, it's like, okay, they got cancer. But why, when someone dies from mental health, why is it taboo?
Right. Exactly.
Why is it different? Why is it stigmatized? And I never thought of it that way. She goes, Chris, sometimes the prognosis in cancer is it's terminal. And sometimes the prognosis in mental health is terminal. And I never thought of it that way.
Right.
And it made so much sense. So
Wow. Yeah, that's deep, man. That's deep. It's like deep in the sense that you know, you saying that like when she did pass, you felt like a little bit of
I felt
relief.
I felt enormous relief. And that was horrible to feel that way and it was horrible to admit that, you know. But a lot of people felt it and it's normal because in sort of a way, she was like terrorizing everyone for a long time. She damaged a lot of relationships with family and friends. She would betray people in small stuff, you know, not like anything bad, like stealing small stuff or not, you know, she'd borrow money but not give it back, you know, just like stuff like that. She had to hustle her whole life. She just had to kind of hustle for herself and I
Right.
get it, you know, and I understand why she, you know, she got married to someone who was incarcerated, you know, for life, you know, and it was like, why would you do that? You really feel that low about yourself? Like,
Right.
she was a very beautiful, pretty smart person growing up, like in a lot of ways, but just the mental health, man, it just gets bad. But also, it's funny because I never really thought of my mom as a drug addict, but really, she became one, and she started getting like those pills in the '80s and I don't know if she took them, if she always took Xanax. I know she took Ambien too. She was addicted to Ambien and Xanax at the end. Now, for I know she took Ambien forever. Xanax, I don't know how long that was going on, but I remember when I was still a drug addict, my mom, or even before, she would send me like Xanax or Klonopin in like the mail,
What?
and she had terrible judgment, man. I live in Ohio. It'd be in like an envelope, the pills just flying around like
Holy
you could
fuck.
see the pills through the paper.
Holy shit.
She'd be like, how did that make you feel? And I'm like, I remember when I came back and I was trying to get off drugs, she gave me like Klonopin. She wanted a friend, you know, like she would give me a Xanax if I wanted, and like she would do anything for me, you know, like um there was one time where I went to see a medium, some people call it a psychic. Um, I believe I got a message from her. This person knew details about her passing that no one else could really know, and she said, "I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to kill myself. I was under the influence of this other medication. My mind wasn't clear." Is what the message was. My mind wasn't clear, but I am happy. I'm at peace now. Don't worry. That was the message I got. It was, I don't know. It was maybe like 6 years ago, something like that.
Wait, where did she get that message from? I'm sorry.
From like a, I guess you would call it a medium or a psychic. You know, I went to
Okay.
see someone, and she knew information about my mother that no one would know. You know what I mean? So um, I tend to believe it. You know, she knew things that no one else could know. Um, so obviously, when you hang yourself, you're asphyxiating. And she's like, and the medium was like, I'm having images. She was having a hard time breathing. She's grabbing her throat, you know, and I, you know, that coincides with, you know, how someone dies when by hanging, you know, like that's what happens. You
Right.
asphyxiate yourself, you know. So she knew that. So I knew it was probably real, you know. I mean, what else, you know? And then she knew that she wasn't in a clear mind because she was on this medication they had given her. So I sort of felt relieved, and I sort of felt like, and a part of me was like, is she burning in hell because suicide? Because certain religion says, you know, people that do that, they just burn in, you know. And I'm just like, no, you know. So, um, yeah. So that's uh, that's what happened.
Wow. Well, what's up? Okay. Um Yeah, I've never I've never talked to a medium before, but I want to.
I give you the number of the person that I went to. Um, I went to her a second time with my niece, and my niece, we think, got to speak to her, and maybe someone else too, her grandmother or her grandfather or something like that. I also did have um, a whole bunch more overdoses and suicides right around the same time my mother passed away. Like 5 months later, an ex girlfriend committed suicide. 2 years ago, another girl, ex girlfriend, overdosed on heroin. Um, 2 years after my mom died, another friend overdosed on heroin. And then 2 years after that, one of my best friend's bandmates died of cancer. So there's been so much death around me over the past 8 years. Some of it suicide, some of it overdose, some of it cancer. And each time it happens, it it's almost become a bad running joke. My therapist, she's like, "Who died this time?" Like kind of kidding, but not kidding. Like Jesus. She's
Right.
like, "Jeez," and it's like there's certain people that know me very very well, know me for a long time, and they go, "I can't believe you made it out like the way as good as you did." Like, not to sound weird, but like people have told me, like, I'm proud of you for like you managed to navigate through all this craziness and you're still here and you're
Right.
sober and you're for the most part got your head on straight. Like, that's rare. A lot of like Doug said it, actually. Doug White, he was like,
Doug
man,
said
Doug said
it.
it to his wife one time and to other people and to me. He's like, dude, Butterlamb, all the things you've been through, I man, you should be proud of yourself. All that, you got your own business, you're sober, you got all these bands. It's like you're not, you don't have fucking 10 kids with fucking crazy women, and like, I was like, oh, thank you, I appreciate it. You don't really think of it that way, but I guess when you look back upon it, it could have. I have every excuse in the book to be dead and overdosed 20 years ago, but I don't consider myself a victim at all. Everyone's got problems. These were just mine, and
Right.
that's just how I navigated through them. And music has always been the only thing that I could depend on to navigate myself to where I felt any real connection or self worth was through music, and so that's been my lifeline for me, like pretty much my whole life. So
Yeah. No, it's good that like you have a um I don't know, it's good to see that you like have found that outlet of music. It sounds like your whole life has basically been that though.
yeah, it has been, and sort of like for better for worse. I remember when I moved to Ohio, I was like, I want to make it as just an underground band. I want to like go on tour, go to Europe, and like that's all I care about. And then if I find someone, good. If I don't, I don't care. I'm just gonna do music, man. I'm just gonna just and I had a. It's not like I'm retired. I had a good run, no, but we did some touring and it was cool, like but it was hard because the drugs came in and then everyone else was on drugs and then I moved home and then I slowly started the band back up again and the band has been for the most part. We think we just found a new drummer, so now we have another full lineup for Elusive Travel, which is very great after a year of just kind of me playing drums and getting a couple other new members. So that just happened like today, so that's really cool.
Hell yeah.
So excited about that, and Paro's going really well. So I got that going on. So and then the Scroll of Enoch with Doug was really cool. The Funeral Doom thing we did was awesome. I
Yes,
want to
it
do it. I
is.
want to do another one really
It's
bad.
fucking
So
it was funny. I was talking to Doug about that album. I was like, "Doug, you do know that that was my favorite thing you've ever done." He's like, "You son of a bitch."
yeah, he even says it's the best thing I've ever done. I'm like, I think it's one of the best things I've ever done without doubt. I mean, I didn't write any of the music, but I wrote the lyrics and I sang and I did the drums. So it was really cool. I hope to do another one, I really do. It was me and Doug are really good creatively together. I've known him for like 32 years, since 1994, longer than you've been alive. So
It there's just something about that album, dude. There's just It's hard for me to even explain.
Oh, I know. You don't got to tell me. For it's weird. For the first like year, I didn't really listen to it that much, but I listened to it like a few months ago, and then listened to it recently, and it just hit me in a way that it felt like it wasn't even me. I was listening to someone else. Like
Right.
I forget, like, oh, that's me in there too. Like with Doug, I it seems like it's some other band. You know what I mean? Because I only went there one day and did drums, and then I did vocals, and that was it. Like I didn't. That was my amount of, and I wrote the lyrics that I sung, and there were two other guests that did appearances. So, but that really helps with mental health. Funeral Doom helps me quite a bit, to be honest with you.
It's funny because like Funeral Doom to me, uh I remember what the fuck is that one band called?
Shape of this.
Bellwitch.
Oh, Bell Witch.
Bellwitch.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I fucking I don't know. I think Funeral Doom, there's just some sort of like power behind it. I've never went to like a Doom festival, but I would definitely be interested in doing so.
Yeah, we played a Templars of Doom festival when I was in Thorns of the Carrion in 2005, I think it was. Um, there was, let me see, it was Templars of Doom, um, a lot of really cool band in Indianapolis, um, 2004 and 2005. It was, um, it was the guy Jason McCash from uh, uh, Gates of Slumber. He was the one that started it. Um, Apostle of Solitude. He was that's Chuck came into that band afterwards. The drummer did. Trying to figure out. So 2005 was the last one that was the last one that we did. Um,
2005. Holy shit.
yeah. So yeah, it was. I'm trying to figure out the bands. I want to show you the. I'm trying to think of the bands. You would like the bands while I'm trying to find it. So while I'm looking for that, go ahead and ask me the next thing. Or
Oh, so what was your actually like first band that you were in?
well, like my first serious band was probably Windbreed, with Tim Young, James Brodesser. Everyone knows Tim Young went out to L.A. He's been in Morbid Angel, Hank Williams III.
Holy shit.
Um, he's in As I Lay Dying right now. Um, he's been in a lot of bands, Divine Heresy. So he was an amazing drummer. I met him when he was like 13. We started Windbreed together. It was awesome.
When
And then
is there anything on the internet?
yep,
Oh,
you'd like it. It's like technical death metal. I played bass and sang.
okay.
Uh, it was like from like 92 to 96. And then after that, I did And Here I Lie and Fledgling Death. That was like the other two bands.
Yes, sir. The old fledgling.
Yep.
That's that's my favorite.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Do you have any old? Is there any old fledgling death merch or
Dude, I
no?
just reprinted the original shirt. I got like 10 of them left if you want one.
I do.
Okay. Just tell me what size you wear. Oh, so the Doom Festival was Pennant, Reverend Bazaar, Pale Divine, Oro Druin, Gates of Slumber, Devil to Pay. And there was Reverend Bazaar. There was a whole bunch of ones that were on there. But that was 2004, sorry.
No shit.
2005. But yeah, so I have some. I just reprinted the original shirt.
You gotta send me a picture of what it looks like.
I will. It's just the crunch slow with the turtle on it, but I'll send you a picture.
Okay.
It's the very first one. Um, let's see here. I'm trying to find the bands for that. Okay, the Second Crusade. It was the Gates of Slumber, Reverend Bazaar, Iron Man, Penance, Devil to Pay, Salt of the Earth, Valkyrie, Arch, Thorns of the Carrion, which was the band I was in, La Crucis, Earthride, Against Nature, Well Souls. So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Dang.
Yep.
Dang. Dang.
And then I started Elusive Travel in like 2000.
I was about to say you've been doing that for a while now.
It's the longest. Yeah, it's the longest one. When I was at the sort of like the beginning of my drug use is sort of like when the band kind of stopped. Just I couldn't find a drummer anymore. It was just I just
Everything falling
it's
apart.
just falling apart. But I remember going on tour, doing drugs, and thinking it's the best thing in the world, and it was fun. But there's always a price to there's always some
I
price to pay at the end. So
Here's the thing, man. I feel like you can how would I put this? I feel like you can enter and leave the music scene freely as long as you're not a dick to people. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's
I
it,
agree.
and you know what I mean? It's like if you're um if you're nice and stuff, like people will always ask you to play shows and stuff.
Yeah, we got a show coming up next Saturday, the 14th. We play
Nice.
first Paro at the Bug Jar. Yep.
I have not been to the bug jar in a while, man. I miss that. I miss the fucking bug jar. It's my
Really?
favorite place.
Yeah.
It's like a
Um,
second home.
I like it. I just hate how small it is, and there's no room for your gear
Oh
anywhere.
yeah.
I just hate that.
It's fucking tiny.
That's it. It's still the my favorite place is the Photo City to play. That's the best.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, there's so much space on that stage. It's
yeah.
obnoxious.
And Montage has a lot of space, too. But some people don't like that for whatever reason. But yeah, I really like it a lot.
It Oh,
Photo
you
City,
saying
my
people don't
favorite.
like going to
Photos
the fucking
Montage,
montage?
yeah.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, some bands just don't play there. So
Randy.
yeah, he's a cool guy. I like him a lot.
He, I feel like people don't like him because he's very business oriented, you know?
Yeah, that's well. He wants some local shows for bands to sell tickets, and some people get offended by that. And I
Right.
understand. I used to kind of be that way a little bit, but you know, if you can help sell some tickets, help sell some tickets. That's the
Yep.
way it's okay. Everyone does it differently, so that's okay.
Yeah, it's just
It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to sell tickets, though. So I get it.
oh
I
fuck
get
yeah.
both. I get both sides. Sure.
It's it's one of those things where I dude, I was fucking horrible at selling tickets, dude. I remember like I would try so hard. People would be like, nah, I ain't going. I'm like, the fuck, man.
Well, it's also hard to be like, why do I need to buy a ticket for a local show? You're not going to sell out. I'll just go. So
Yeah.
and it's also too when you're like 50, you're like, I'm not in high school or in college. I gotta like drive to someone's house to sell them a $10 ticket and cost me $8 in gas. It's like, I don't know. It it's different for different people. So
Right. You kind of look at it where you're just like, dude, I'm kind of like,
yeah,
uh,
it's sort of people are just kind of turned off by it. Sort in some, I'm not crazy about it, but if he wants us to do it, sometimes I'll do it. I'll do the best I can. So
what the fuck? I'm sorry, dude. I went off on my computer real quick to look at this SD card. Have you ever heard of a band called Troubleshooter?
no,
Okay. I found this fucking weird SD card and I'm like, what in the hell is on here? And it's some fucking weird punk band. Anyway, my bad.
what are they called?
They were called Troubleshooter,
Where are they from?
Rochester.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, I don't no idea. Um but yeah, I mean I the whole psychic thing, man, that's like
Yeah,
I've never talked to a psychic, but let me tell you, I would love to. I
people
mean,
and
it does
psychics
creep me
and
out.
quote unquote they hate when you use that word.
You
So
said
everyone psychic they don't like that word. They like I don't know medium or I don't know. There's all these different words that
they don't they don't like it?
they don't like when you call them a psychic. They think it's like disrespectful or kind of cheesy or something like that. So I
Okay.
don't really know
Fuck.
what I don't know what the real. There's all these different ones. There's all different. So a reader or something. I don't know. I'll let you know the name she prefers. It's like a pronoun. It's like pronouns for mediums or psychics, whatever you want to call it. So
I'm going to I'm going to unintentionally call him a psychic on
do it.
accident.
Just do it. Yeah.
You'd be like, "What the fuck?" But
Yeah.
um, cool, man. Well, it was a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm glad that we were able to like dive deep into the whole God, the whole mom thing because
Yeah.
I really yeah, I did learn a little bit about like her journey and
Yeah.
it sucks in the sense that you said that you kind of didn't expect it, you know?
No, we always thought it was just a cry for attention. We're always like, she'll never do it. And what's really eerie and crazy, she would always be like, just wait till I die. You're gonna wish you were nicer to me. She'd always say that, and we'd always be like, oh, you're so annoying, like why do you keep like it was a shitty thing to say, but it's like why do you say that? You know what I mean? Like, um, and then she dies, and then now we're like, now people are like, yeah, I probably should have listened and maybe been a little bit nicer. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the thing is like you never know what someone's going through, man. You never know. Just being nice to someone, how much that means to them. And so, honestly, even before that, I really have always tried to be extremely polite, over polite. So sometimes it's ridiculous. I'm always like, I'm sorry. I say I'm sorry all the time. Apparently, I do this, and people are like, dude, stop that. You're not gonna be sorry about everything. I'm like, oh, I know. I'm sorry. It's like stupid. So you just gotta,
You're just
just gotta be yourself.
yeah, you're just used to saying it now.
Yes, I'm just used to saying it for no reason.
But yeah,
Okay.
cool. Well, I'm gonna end this here.